Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to recruit you, and our running back coach didn't take the test. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaX Sports on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial, 12:30 a.m. WTBC. We're live, local, and ready to get things rolling right here on your home for Alabama sports. I want to encourage you to get in on the conversation. Make yourself a part of it. You can do that at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. You can also join us on the live stream on Facebook and YouTube at Martin J. Houston 35 and Martin Houston 35 fan page on Facebook, and Martin J. Houston 35 on the X. We are live, local, and ready to get it rolling. Man, what a great day it is. It's a Tuesday edition of the program, so I want to invite you to get in on the conversation. So do that, joining us on chat and on the phone line. X, welcome. Glad to have you back in with us after yesterday. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing well. DC Capstone report joins the conversation today. He'll be with us, and we'll break down with him the the Alabama basketball game, their big win in terms of the showdown with Mississippi State. And then, of course, we'll get his preview thoughts on the upcoming game with the Auburn Tigers. We'll also a segment that introduced on yesterday, Black Trailblazers in Alabama athletics. We did that on yesterday. And we won't do it necessarily every day. We may, but I'm just highlighting some individuals that I think were trailblazers for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And yesterday, our trailblazers for the day was John Mitchell, and Wilbur Jackson, first scholarship Black football player and the first Black player to play for the Crimson Tide. I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull up their names. And I thought about it yesterday, and I did not do it, but there was actually a couple of gentlemen who were walk-ons before who were on the roster. But a lot of people don't realize back in the day you had junior varsity and varsity, and these guys were the first varsity players, first scholarship players. So there had been a couple walk-ons who had paid a price before that moment. Well, we broke that down yesterday. Today, we have another trailblazer that I want to highlight, who holds a special place in my life, as well as I'm sure a special place in the lives of many others. So before we get into that, I want to remind you that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. and time permitting, we'll also get into the big weekend X from Junior Day. And if not, we'll just kick that to either tomorrow or Thursday. Alabama had a big recruiting weekend. And I guess the Saban era officially ended. His last commitment agreed to sign tomorrow. So we'll look at that as Quentin Reese of Ramsey High School linebacker said he is going to officially sign with Alabama. So lots of conversation to get to, and we'll work it all into the conversation as we move along. So good morning, DC. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing great, Martin. How are you this morning?
Doing well, doing well. I told him yesterday. DC, you may have a thought or a comment. I know history has a special place for you, as you and Gary Shores were part of the original. Y'all assisted the original curator to make sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, with establishing Bryant Museum. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Gary Shores and I were the first employees of the Bryant Museum as work study students back in the day. And Emily Moore, she was tapped at that time. She was working in the art department, and she was tapped by the art department, which was under the guise of the historical art and history department, to take over and establish what would become now the Bryant Museum. And I was working for Emily at the time, and she asked me if I would go over and help her, and we needed help. And she said, "You know anybody that loves Alabama football?" And I said, "Gary Shores loves Alabama football and knows more about it than I do." And he tapped in, and Gary became a long-time 25-year employee of the Bryant Museum after that.
Yep. So yesterday we focused on John Mitchell and as I said, John Mitchell and Wilbur Jackson, Trailblazers. But another Trailblazer, I'm gonna let the video do the talking here, and then we'll come back and comment on this real quick. So let's listen to this video, and I'm sure you guys know it after just a moment.
Alabama now has the ball just inside the 15. Klein with a block, Pitts with a recovery. Walter Lewis on first down to throw. Here's his ability to scramble. By Ashley to the 5. He's to the 4-yard line. That's Penn State. Fagan, Moore, Turner, the power, and Lewis. Lewis straight ahead. He's got it. Walter Lewis at first and goal now for Alabama. After the block punt, they have the ball. First and goal at the 4. Moore and Turner for Ruth in the backfield. And keeping and taking it in will be Lewis. A beautiful fake touchdown.
Well, there we go. For those of you who couldn't see the video that on the radio airwaves, that was Walter Lewis, quarterback in the wishbone, DC and X. Walter Lewis was the first black quarterback at the University of Alabama. He was the first under Coach Bryant, but he also holds the distinguished goal of being the first black quarterback, but also the last quarterback to start for legendary Coach Bryant. X, I know you're not old enough to remember Walter Lewis. I was about the age of my grandson, a year older when he started, and remember all of the crazy chaos around it. But DC, you have any memories from that time that you like to share as we honor or recognize Walter Lewis as a trailblazer for the University of Alabama athletics?
Yes, definitely. Walter Lewis was a great quarterback for University of Alabama, a trailblazer, and put the weight of the world on his shoulders, being the first African American quarterback to start at the university. He, however, was not the first African quarterback to play. Often forgotten about is Michael Landrum. In 1979, he was the first African American quarterback to play for Coach Bryant. He only got in one game as a backup, and threw 2 passes. But he's technically the first African-American quarterback to play for Coach Bryant. But Walter Lewis was definitely the first one to start and put the whole weight of the world on his shoulders. And I got to see it from a great perspective because Walter was at the university when I was there. And got
old.
to meet him on
I'm just kidding.
yes, I'm old. Got to meet him on a very personal level because in that day, most of all the guys would gather together and have pickup basketball games. And Walter Lewis was one of the best pickup basketball players you'd ever seen. Highlight the football versus basketball players over at the when we would get together and play. And so I got to know him on a personal level. Went to some classes with him. So he was more of a class guy than you would ever think. He didn't let the pressure get to him, although I can tell you from discussions with him, just casual discussions, that it was a lot of pressure being the first African-American starting quarterback. But Coach Bryant really gave him a lot of latitude and also gave him a lot of good advice. And I know just from hearing him talk, he felt the pressure, but he also felt the support that he had that started with his coach. So I think he did a great job of blazing the trail for all those that would come behind him. Yeah,
and just to run off that list of all, go ahead, X.
Yeah, and it's, of course, I'm not old enough to remember Walter Lewis as a player. I've heard the stories of him since, but it's funny that my true introduction to Alabama football, outside of course, being born while you played, was also an African-American quarterback in Andrew Zhao. So it's interesting that you got to witness the first black quarterback to play and start at Alabama. But the guy who helped me fall in love with Alabama as a quarterback was also an African-American quarterback in Andrew Zhao. And then you kind of look at what has happened since then. You talk about, you played with Danny Woodson, and then you have Zhao, and now you look at the Jalen Milroes, the Bryce Youngs, the first quarterback to win the Heisman at Alabama being a black quarterback, the Jalen Hurts, the Blake Sims through the Coach Saban era, and it all started with Walter Lewis.
Yeah, and I run, when you call it somebody a trailblazer, then there's a whole list of people who came behind them, and I may not get everybody, but of course we know when we look at what Johnny Mitchell and Wilbur Jackson did, every black player that's played since that time could be listed. But from the quarterback standpoint, since that time, shout out to Vince Sutton, Danny Woodson, Andrew Zhao, Blake Sims, Jalen Hurts, Bryce Young, and Jalen Milroe, and I also put Tua Tagovailoa in there as a minority, and then just a couple other guys whose names we sometimes forget that did not necessarily play a lot, but also Star Jackson and Phil Simms. So, and I may have missed some, but there have been a whole host of guys since that time, and that's what a trailblazer is. Coming back on the other side, I have a unique perspective on Walter Lewis. We'll talk about what that is, as well as we'll get your thoughts, DC and X, on Alabama's last game, or maybe last two games since the last time we spoke to you, DC, and then Alabama versus Auburn moving forward. Coach DeBoer adding to his staff, yet again, a high-level coach. So we'll look at those conversations and more as you're tuned to the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9, 1230 a.m. WTBC. And don't forget on the live stream at Martin J. Houston 35 or Martin Houston 35 fan page.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. The first early indications of the sunrise aren't revealing anything much throughout T-Town this morning as we're underway, free of any big accidents or breakdowns or heavy interstate backups early on this Tuesday morning drive. 2059 from Foster's out to Cottondale, 69 coming up from the Hale County area this morning, and McFarland Boulevard as well. All remain in good shape this morning. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
This report is sponsored by Tire Rack. Townsend Nissan is your #1 dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you #1 keeps Townsend Nissan #1. See dealer for details.
Nearly 3,000 teen drivers die in car crashes each year. Tire Rack Street Survival is designed to save lives. The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive.
Discover, this is Daniela.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Do you like asparagus and mushroom sorbet? I've got leftovers.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Denise has been playing jazz for 40 years. Last concert, one of the musicians fell sick with RSV. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a highly contagious virus that can lead to breathing problems. This time, she's choosing to help protect herself with Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo. Abrysvo is a vaccine for the prevention of lower respiratory tract disease caused by respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, in adults 60 years of age and older. Abrysvo is not for everyone and may not protect all who receive the vaccine. Don't get Abrysvo if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its ingredients. People with a weakened immune system may have a decreased response to Abrysvo. The most common side effects are tiredness, headache, pain at the injection site, and muscle pain. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo, respiratory syncytial virus vaccine. For full prescribing information, please call 1-844-989-7284 or visit abrysvo.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Weather brought to you by Tidwell Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very nice day today with a sunny sky, the high 63. For tonight, fair with the low at 36. Tomorrow and Thursday, partly to mostly sunny both days, highs between 60 and 63. Friday, the chance of a few showers during the day, the high 66. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 37 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We have DC Capstone Report in on the conversation. DC, as we were going to break there, we were talking about Walter Lewis being a trailblazer in Alabama athletics. Some I don't think as many people recognize and know, but Walter Lewis was also my position coach at Alabama. Walter Lewis was a business professional, and Coach Curry tapped him one season to come be the coach at the University of Alabama. So my freshman year, redshirt freshman year, I was coached by Chip Wisdom, a former Georgia guy who went to coach under Bill Curry at Georgia Tech, came to Alabama. And then that was my freshman year. My redshirt freshman year, Walter Lewis was the running back coach. And then, of course, we know the next year, Coach Stallings came in and Coach Lewis returned to Walter Lewis, business professional. So a neat experience there. He did a really good job with me and Kevin Turner and others in that 1 year. So shout out to him, not just for being a trailblazer, but being a great influence and playing a special role in my life in that one season. So pretty neat experience there. Any other closing thoughts on Coach Lewis before we transition to basketball, DC?
Well, I think that people, a lot of the fans didn't know what to expect, didn't know how he would be as a quarterback. But I think that he, in my opinion, did one of the best job of coming in a tough situation and with all the eyes on him and operating under a really stressful environment. And he had a real cool calm about him. And I don't know if that came out in his coaching or not, but anytime I had any interaction with him, he was very cool, calm, and collected. Although you could tell he had a lot of pressure on him, he was able to handle that pressure. And I think that boded well for him as a quarterback. And I think that's been a very good thing to get it started with those that have come behind him. I think that first person who takes all the pressure does a really good job for those that come behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. He did do a great job of handling that pressure, DC, and he did have that cool, calm, collective demeanor in which you referred to. And Coach Lewis and I remain in contact after that, and I almost went to work for him post graduate. Thing. He's in financial services, financial investments, and I began the process of possibly pursuing a career and did not go into that field, but we remained in connection even after that. So once again, kudos to Walter Lewis as our Black Trailblazer in Alabama Athletics for the month of February as we honor Black History Month. The first starting quarterback for Coach Bryant and the first Black starting quarterback for Alabama and the last overall starting quarterback for Coach Bryant, legendary coach there. So you can see Coach had a big role in several key firsts for Alabama, DC. But talking about a coach, how do you grade Nate Oates and this staff at this point, sitting at 8-1 atop a very good, to me, seven really good teams in the SEC, and maybe an eighth team that scares you if you have to go to their place.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he's head and shoulders above anybody in the media picked him, and they picked Alabama to be fifth or sixth in the league. So at this point in the season, this coach and this coaching staff has done an amazing job. When you look at a team that didn't bring anybody back except Coach Oates and Mark Sears and Nick Pringle, and you're talking about him replacing all of his. I mean, when is it? It's unheard of that every one of your assistant coaches receives Division I basketball head coaching job. You lose all three of your assistant coaches. You lose every person on your team except two, and then you put together a squad of players, and then a coaching staff that has come together. And over time, it's taken a little while to gel. But they, in my opinion, they're peaking at the exactly right time and winning. What some people think is an offensive-minded team is winning with defense. When you look at these last couple of games that they've played, they've really played defense. I think put together a full game. And so I credit Coach Oates. I give credit to Coach Oates and the players and the coaches that he surrounded himself with, but also having the patience to allow them to develop. And Martin, being a player, sometimes coaches don't have that kind of patience, make too many wholesale changes, but he has continually stressed the things to do and kept on his game plan. And I think this team is finally coming around to it.
Yeah, without a doubt. X, what's your thoughts overall? And we'll get into a couple of games specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Oates has done an amazing job with this Alabama team, and I think DC, hit the nail on the head with everything from what this team lost last year, from not just the player standpoint and the coach's standpoint, but how he was able to resculpt and rebuild this team. And we talk about it. Mark Sears had to have had this dog in him. Like, this is just not something that pops up all of a sudden. He has one less 20-point game than Brandon Miller had all of last year. And he's got, I think, 8 or 9 more regular season games and the tournament games to reach that mark and surpass it. So Sears being able to step into it, Oates trusting Sears to step into that role just shows you the way he's able to adjust and move and still get things rolling in the way that you need to. This team was 6-5 at one point, and now they're sitting at 14-6, 15-6 now. It's a testament to Coach Oates, his staff of rebuilding it, and what these players are buying into.
Yeah, without a doubt, he. The Alabama. If Alabama didn't have the toughest preseason conference schedule, just in general, when you take the fact that they had all new coaches and all new players, with the exception of 2 really big time contributors, and 3 if you count Pringle as a whole from last year. But right now you have 2 guys contributing that contributed last year. It's hard to believe just how good, how well this team is playing, and they bought in, and now you see. Would have loved to have gotten a couple of those victories, but sometimes winning is a acquired art or a learned art, and this team, I think, is learning how to win. So we'll come back on the other side, DC, and we'll break down uh, what what you think the big takeaway was from the Georgia game, what resulted, I believe, in the Mississippi State dominance, and what Alabama needs to do against the Auburn Tigers. But before we go to break, we had a caller that wanted to call in based on the prior conversation with Walter Lewis. Chuck, you're in on the Album One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Yes, good morning, you all. I don't want to take you off topic. I just wanted to add this into the Black History conversation. You were talking about John Mitchell and Wilbur Jackson. By the way, John Mitchell's high school coach, Levi Washington, the father of former Auburn quarterback Pat Washington, lives 60 miles east of me in my father's hometown of Toulouse, Louisiana. That's where he retired from over there. He coached in Louisiana. He was Coach Washington, legendary coach at Williamson High School in Mobile. He's from Mobile. He played under Eddie Robinson at Grambling, and I was just letting you know that he talked about John Mitchell, and during the time when it happened, Mitchell was going to commit to USC. But I think Coach Bryant found out that he hadn't signed, and Pat Dye was an assistant during the time. Coach Washington knew Coach Bryant. Coach Dye, Coach Dye told that story as well. He said that Coach Bryant told him, he said he couldn't land John Mitchell. He was out of a job. They had a great laugh about that, and they said they ended up landing Mitchell. But I just wanted to point that out that Levi Washington is. We know him quite well. He's should be about his late 80s, but he's here in Toulouse, over in Louisiana, like I said, 60 miles east of me on Interstate 20.
Yeah, and he, of course, played a big role in what happened at Auburn in terms of his son growing up to play there. But just FYI, as we let you go, Chuck, John McKay actually let it slip about Mitchell. What was it? Jackson that committed from the school. Wilbur Jackson, he let it slip that he wanted to go to Alabama, and so when Coach Bryant found out, Coach McKay is the one that told him, not thinking, and they said that Coach Bryant excused himself from that meeting, and I guess they didn't name the assistant in the story I read, but it was Coach Dye. Told him you better go get him. So anyway, definitely some great stories. John McKay played a huge role in Alabama's integration, of course, agreeing to play Alabama in a home and home with USC, and we know the results of that. Thanks, Chuck, coming back on the other side. We'll keep the conversation going. We appreciate you being a part of the conversation. As always, you can call in on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904. Or you can send your thoughts, your comments, your actions, and your questions in the live chat. Coming back on the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling with DC Capstone Report.
What does it feel like to file with TaxSlayer and get your guaranteed maximum refund? It feels like the last level of a video game, facing off against the final boss who stands between you and your refund.
All your refund has belonged to me.
Using the power of TaxSlayer like a secret power-up he doesn't see coming.
Only the most tax confident can defeat me.
Throwing your laptop at his video game face and watching him crumble into a giant pile of shiny coin tax refunds.
Oh, not fair. You use TaxSlayer.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if you can't safely move over, please slow down.
Visit DriveSafeAlabama.org, brought to you by the Alabama Department of Transportation, Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Hey, what if I told you could win $1,000 and it would only take a minute? Well, it's happening. Our friends at BetU, along with your favorite radio station, are giving away $1,000 on Fridays. You could win $1,000 this Friday. Just go download the BetU app right now in the App Store. It's Bet and the letter U. Sign up for an account and you are in the running to win this Friday. $1,000. Just download the BetU app right now in the App Store and sign up for an account for your shot at winning.
He's got 8 points.
Unemployment, your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal...
Dish, Wagi, all alone, 3.
Available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
This report is sponsored by Stand Up to Cancer.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back in to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9. We have DC Capstone report as a part of the conversation. Just a little highlight from Saturday here to get things kicked off.
All alone, 3, no good. Rebound tip, grabbed by Diabate, lays it up and in for 2. Bright Hubbard, 2 on the shot clock to the top of the arc. A 3-point attempt blocked by Diabate. And while it's controlled by State, that is a shot clock violation.
That was an unbelievable effort.
Reitzel stopping on the wing to Sears now.
There we go. I just want to highlight, Alabama has a lot of guys playing well, DC. But they've been missing a little something. And I think, if they can get more of it from this young man, then I think Alabama has found another ingredient to make them a winning team. Offensively, they've been dominant all year. They're the number one, offense in the country. Going into Saturday's game, averaging 89.2, I think. Getting 99 points did not hurt that average, but the last 3 halves, it's been about defense leading to offense, effort, etc. And Coach Oates, I saw a pregame interview where he talked about trying to get these guys more geared in on cutting down on turnovers, but more importantly, to get them tough on defense. Did you hear who he showed Diabate and said, we need some of that on our team? Did you hear about that?
I did not hear that, but I have noticed that Diabate's been coming on pretty good lately.
Yeah, he showed him Draymond Green. Now, I personally don't like Draymond Green. I think he's a little turd, he's a little punk, and all that stuff. But what he brings to Golden State, everybody talks about Steph and all of these guys and Clay and all of that. You take out that piece, that element of of toughness that he brings, I don't think they go on these runs that they've been on. I think he brings something to them that if it's not their DC, they're just a high scoring team that everybody punks out.
Yeah.
And I think
I agree.
I think that's what we had in Alabama, that teams would come in and physically intimidate us, and we didn't have a pushback. Maybe with Diabate getting a little tougher, picking up a little bit of that, because as you showed, I showed you, he got an offensive rebound. He got the block shot that it looked like there's no way he can get to that guy. Just that hustle and effort play.
Yeah, I agree. I think two things that's happened for this Alabama team that's been beneficial on defense has been, with Pringle's problems that he's had, personal problems where he's not been able to play, it's allowed Wagi and Diabate to get more minutes. And I think getting them more minutes has helped them defensively. I think it's one thing to practice and go all out against your teammates, but if you're going to develop that toughness, I think you have to do it against an opposing team, and I think they've had a chance to do that. The other thing I think that really helped that Nate Oates has done is trying to help Grant Nelson get a little more physical. And by playing him in the 5, he does two things. He gets to play a little more physical against the 5 big man on the other side, but it also opens up a great two-man game between Sears and Nelson that Sears is really good at taking advantage of. And I think when you play 4 guards and Nelson, you get a great offense, but you're really getting a pretty good defense because the guards on those non-ball handlers are getting turnovers and getting takeaways. And then you got Nelson who can pull his guy out, and it leaves a wide open penetration point for Mark Sears. And there was a game where Mark Sears was not hitting 3-pointers, but he ended up getting over 20 points because he drove the lane and was able to finish at the rim against late help coming over. So I think that's two big things Nate Oates has done with his basketball team.
Agree. Actually, you have anything on that before we move to the next subject?
Yeah. When you look at when we talk about that and the defensive mindset that Diabate comes with, the bully, the big tough guy kind of mentality that he's had, but not taking it necessarily to the Draymond level. DC, when you looked at Saturday, the free throw shooting was so the difference in it was so bad. How does Alabama rein that in some of these tougher games, like tomorrow against Auburn, and you're playing in their building, so you don't, because Auburn is good enough. If you let them shoot that many free throws, you're not going to win when it's that big of a disparity. How does Alabama curve that to where it's an advantage and not the disadvantage that it kind of was Saturday?
Yeah, that's definitely a glaring issue when you look at it. And I think we got two issues there. Number one is I think we got to learn to guard hard without fouling. I think Coach Oates has talked about several press conferences about that. And that's one issue I think that Pringle has had in practice is he hasn't gotten that. He has the toughness side, but he doesn't have the discipline side. And I think you got to learn to play with discipline on that. But two, I think Alabama is not getting the calls this year for some reason, because I think we've got the moniker of being a soft team, not a tough team. And soft teams foul and tough teams play tough defense. And there's a fine line between that. And I just think in the eyes of a lot of the refs, we don't get the calls because we're considered a soft team. And I know you say that's no conspiracy theory; it's just a fact. You can watch any basketball team; it doesn't have to be Alabama, but usually the tough team that plays tough defense gets the calls, and the ones who don't are lazy and late to the play and use their hands and reach ins get the fouls called on them. So I think Alabama's got to turn that around. You're right; we can't have that disparity in this game at Auburn, and we're not going to get the calls at Auburn. So we're going to have to play tough defense without fouling, disciplined defense without fouling in order to swing that to more of an even keel. If we don't, then there's no way we're going to compete at Auburn.
Well, and the other thing I'll add is two things to build off of what you both have said. First of all, The disparity is, I think, 100% X on the officiating. That was horrible. We had 6 fouls in the first 3 minutes, I think, in the second half.
Yeah.
And in Mississippi State, both teams were fouling about the same. But I also think that Nate Oates is a really, really smart coach. And if you're fouling and the other team isn't hitting free throws, it's not costing you. So you keep fouling if you're out front. You see what I'm saying? Like Saturday, there was no reason, DC, for Alabama to stop being aggressive on defense for several reasons. One is they had a big lead. 2 is Mississippi State wasn't hitting. And 3, they were getting turnovers and run out dunks and transition points. So I think that also added to it because they weren't being punished by that type of play. And Nate Oates said at the beginning that he wanted to play a more aggressive defense. And Coach Bernard has been implementing that defense, and they're finally getting to a point where I think they're playing it, DC, and they're going to get some benefit of the doubt for not being a soft team. Because now when you watch the Alabama games since Tennessee, all you hear the announcers saying is, man, this team has taken it up a notch on defense. This team has taken it up a notch on defense. They're being more aggressive. And if you take the last 3 halves, they have played everything that Nate Oates wants them to do, offensively, defensively, etc. So give me your thoughts real quick, DC, on the big win against the Dogs, both Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were huge. I think huge victories. Alabama played complete games. I think the one Saturday may have been the best game they played all year. And I think there's been building blocks on where they played in earlier in the year. And you know, I don't think that the average fan understands what playing in that early schedule did for this team. Sometimes, you know, you lose games, but you grow through those losses. They don't really hurt you as much. They help you. And I think they've been helped by that because their toughness is better, their defense is better, and they showed they're going to ramp it up. They're going to play on that national stage. I think they're getting better every time. The game against Mississippi State, to me, was a great example of what this team can be.
Yeah, and you know, we added a lot of guys from other schools who I don't think played SEC level competition, right? Estrada, right. Not consistently. You had freshmen coming in who didn't understand. You had Grant Nelson. I give people the example. I remember when I went to the Steelers, the physical part of the game, DC, for me, was nothing. I mean, and I'm not being arrogant with that. The way Gene Stallings made us play football, when I went to the next level, the physicality coming from the SEC going to the Steelers and the NFL, I was ready. It was zero. I could block any guy, Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd, you name it. Woodson, it didn't matter what level. What I wasn't ready for, I'd never forget the first time we called a toss sweep. And I kind of understood the blocking scheme from the running back standpoint and all that. When DeMonte Dawson, the center, pulled and was the lead blocker for the sweep, and he and I are running side by side on the sweep, and I'm running full speed to get to my man, and he's right there beside me, DC, I said, oh, God. This guy weighs 300 pounds, and he's running the exact same course that I'm running. And then all of a sudden, when you see a lineman, when you're watching film, you see a lineman that is at the nose tackle position run a running back down outside. You go, oh, okay. The physicality, I'm good. But the speed in which that linebacker gets from A to B, or that lineman that I'm supposed to block, he's not going to be right there. He's going to be 2 steps wider. I had to adjust to that. And I think that's where Alabama basketball was at the beginning of this season, DC, is I believe that they 100% some guys were ready, speed-wise, but they weren't ready physical-wise. So they have the opposite of what I had. And I think that they have now been prepared for that. I'm going to let you respond to that on the other side. We'll talk about the Auburn game, and then if you have anything you want to get to in terms of Coach DeBoer and this staff and where Alabama's going, we'll talk about that on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Our drive this morning remains pretty quiet, free of any major accidents or breakdowns or heavy backups, and our drive time is reflecting that this morning. If you're traveling along McFarland Boulevard between Jack Warner Parkway and Airport Boulevard, just 7 minutes both directions there. I-20 59 from the 359 interchange to Skyland Boulevard, that's 8 minutes, and no problems on 69 for those coming up from Hale County. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Police are asking for help from anyone who may have seen a gun fired outside of the Spades Lounge in West Tuscaloosa before dawn on Sunday morning. The club is located just off of Culver Road. Police say an incident in the overflow parking lot left a 32-year-old man with a gunshot wound to his leg. They did not classify it as a life-threatening wound. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather. TuscaloosaThread.com is your free way to find out what's going on. I'm Don Hartley.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m., The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show powered by MaX Sports. As we have a Would You Rather Wednesday, we'll also look at the Alabama versus the Auburn game as they head down to the Plains to try to get another big win. We'll also break down Coach DeBoer and his current staff, maybe do a little comparison game between this staff and the potential it has versus the 2015 Alabama staff. We'll talk about those things and more. The phone lines are open at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. Look forward to talking with you. Join us Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. on the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaX Sports.
Catch the Martin Houston Show from 6 to 7 weekday mornings on Tide 100.9.
Townsend Nissan is your number one dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you number one keeps Townsend Nissan number one. See dealer for details.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Hey, folks, this is B.J. Perkins, Executive Manager at Townsend Nissan. It might be cold outside, but these deals are hot, hot, hot. Like $2,000 off every Nissan Kicks, Frontier, Altima, Pathfinder, and $2,500 off every Rogue. Okay, these deals getting hotter. Like $5,000 off every 2024 Titan in stock. Also, the awesome Armada is discounted $5,000. And yes, every area in stock is discounted up to $10,000. Remember, Townsend Nissan is your hometown dealer. We have over 200 new Nissans in stock and on the way. And yes, we have a great selection of used vehicles. Remember, no reasonable offer refused.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-294-8831 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-294-8831. That's 800-294-8831. What do you have to lose? Call 800-294-8831. Again, 800-294-8831.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. Earlier in the program, we did a Trailblazers, Black Trailblazers for Alabama Athletics, and I love the interaction we're able to have, with the show. and I just got a message from Adam DeFord. He sent it to me. He didn't send it in chat. He sent it directly to me. It says, growing up, I remember my dad used to sing a cheer all the time. DC, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this or not. I don't remember because I was, birthed in 70 and only 2 or 3 years old. But it says, bang, bang, choo choo train, come on, Wilbur, and do your thing. So and he said that he believed that the student body used to sing that growing up. That was from Adam DeFord. So thanks for sending in that moment. I want to remind anyone out there, you may have something that you'd like to share during this Trailblazer segment. It doesn't have to be a person of African American descent. If there was someone that you want to recognize, because Coach Bryant was a trailblazer by doing what he did. And so I recognized that yesterday. It doesn't have to be a person of African American descent for them to be recognized as a trailblazer. Anyone who opened a door that has made things better in terms of the African Americans' contribution to any sport on campus, as well as to the relationship of African Americans in sports on the campus of the University of Alabama. So just wanted to let everybody know that. DC, tell them real quick where they can get you, and then we'll go into this Auburn. Alabama has a big Auburn game coming up.
Well, you can find us at DCCapstoneReport.com, DC Capstone Report Facebook page, and you can follow Lance at his other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. We've got some great Alabama content. We're on hiatus right now with the podcast, but we'll be cranking that back up as we get closer to spring practice and the A-Day game.
All right. DC, as we look at Alabama versus Auburn, I think both teams, I think Alabama had their best half and then their best game with 50-plus points. I think they scored 58 against Georgia, 40 in the last 10 minutes. Auburn getting beat by Ole Miss, similar story, gets 56, I think, in the second half. So as you look at these two teams, they both have had big moments in some seemingly buy-in. What does Bama need to do, their three-point shot that they need to take if they're going to take down the Auburn Tigers on their home court?
Well, I think we got to go in and play hard defense, and we got to hit our threes. I think when Alabama plays defense and hits their threes, it opens up the rest of their game. And I believe it's going to be a tough game, and I believe this team knows that going into Neville Arena. It's going to be a hard environment to play in. But I believe that Alabama has an advantage over Auburn. I think this Auburn team doesn't shoot as well as Auburn teams in the past. So if we can play good defense on Broome and limit his scoring ability, I really think that this Alabama team has got a chance to go in and shock Auburn and win the game at Auburn. I don't think many people give them much chance. I think it's one of those games where you think, well, you're supposed to lose this and on the road. But I really believe that because of Alabama's tough competition, because of their debacle at Tennessee, that they'll be on and ready and go in there and compete hard. And if our threes are falling, I predict Alabama wins this game and win it by 5.
Yeah, we both picked Georgia. Alabama beat Georgia by 10. They won't beat them by 9. We pulled that one out at the end. But real quick, DC, and then we're going to let Joey close this out. DC, I think that another thing that Alabama has to do, and I think that Wagyu and Diabate's emergence is going to help, is they have to have some depth. They cannot have Grant Nelson pushing against Broome for the entire game, because then you lose his legs and his shots late. And we will need him to be big offensively late, defensively early. What's your thoughts there in terms of Alabama holding up against the deep roster?
I agree 100%. I think that there has to be a deep roster here for Alabama to play. And I think sending Diabate and Magui against Broome is going to be a pivotal thing. I don't think we can win it with just Nelson on him. So it's going to take a team effort to do that. And I believe that's something we got to do. We got to limit Broome's ability to add to the offensive production for Auburn. If we do that, then I think Alabama wins.
All right. Joey, you're in with DC and X. What you got for us real quick?
Hey, Martin, you mentioned again about Wilbur. It's one play that always excites me. I forget the exact year. Alabama beat Tennessee 42-21, but it was 21-all starting the fourth quarter. But Wilbur, is a pitch out to the right. Wilbur goes around. It's when he goes 80 yards, but he goes around to the right and is cutting back across the field. And it's just, I don't know if you've ever noticed, as he's running back across the field, John Hanna slaps him on the rear end. I don't know if you have ever noticed that.
I have not.
And he slaps him on the rear end, and Wilbur goes 80 yards. But if you remember the game I'm talking about.
I'm going to try to find that. What year was that? You don't remember the exact year?
1973 is what I'm going to guess.
Okay.
But it was,
wow.
Robin Carey ran a punt back, and then Wilbur goes 80 yards, and then Tennessee fumbled, and Alabama scored. So it was 21-all starting the fourth quarter, and Bama won 42-21. I thought you'd like that play when you see John Hanna slap his rear.
Oh, wow, that's great. I'll see if I can find that. Thanks, Joey. DC, your closing thoughts, sir.
Well, I think this what you're doing with the Black History Month is great and spotlighting people. One other player I'd like to spotlight, I think, was a Trailblazer for Alabama, was at a position you played. His name was Calvin Culliver. And one of your team, all your listeners ought to look him up. He blazed the trail at fullback for Alabama, and he was what I would consider to be Coach Bryant's favorite player of all time. And I can tell you the stories behind that later. But Calvin Culliver was a Trailblazer fullback for Alabama.
That is awesome. And thanks to Joey and thanks to modern technology, DC, we're going to go off the air with that. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding, always acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. For those of you who are tuned in on Facebook, you're going to get to see John Hanna slap Wilbur Marshall on the tush as he goes 80 yards. Thanks, guys. We'll be back tomorrow for more of the Martin Houston Show powered by MaX
from long distance. Wilbur raced 80 yards for a touchdown. Literally, he left the balls reeling and left Bama on top, 35-21. Paul's 5-8 climax.
That is awesome. All right, we'll be back tomorrow for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. Roll Tide out there, everybody. We'll catch you on tomorrow. Thanks for being a part of the program. Up next, Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Simpson. Thanks, X. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, DC. We appreciate you. Follow at Martin Houston 35 fan page or tune in every day on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide